Hello, everyone, and welcome to Coffee with Convery, the podcast where we explore career journeys, diversity in the workplace, and empowering advice for talent. Today, I'm thrilled to be joined by Mathias Memmel, a lawyer at Fasken specializing in litigation and dispute resolution. Mathias brings a unique and multifaceted perspective to our conversation. He holds a Doctor of Law degree from York University's Osgoode Hall Law School, as well as a Bachelor of Science in Computer Science and Political Science, and a Bachelor of Music in Voice Performance, both from the University of Toronto. His diverse background includes serving as president of the University of Toronto Student Union, working as a communications advisor for Toronto City Councillor, and even directing music for various churches and choirs. Mathias has also been actively involved in LGBTQ plus advocacy, including his work with the 519, a prominent LGBTQ plus community center in Toronto. With this rich tapestry of experiences in education, law, politics, the arts, Mathias offers a distinct voice on career development, diversity, and inclusion. Welcome, Mathias, to the podcast.
Thanks for inviting me, Brian. It's a pleasure to be here.
Super exciting to have you, and especially on the eve of a very important opportunity day for folks across the 2S LGBTQ plus community of National Coming Out Day tomorrow. So I'm sure we'll get into that a little bit more as we get into your story and background. But before we get started, I just want to ask you some rapid fire questions.
Go for it.
All right, what is your superpower?
I would say it's grit and perseverance. I really just am not someone who gives up.
Awesome. That's awesome. Talking about the senses, I always want to ask this question because I get such a variety of answers and it makes me laugh. What is your favorite smell?
My favorite smell is mint. I have like essential oils in my office and stuff, and they're all like variations on mint. I just find it like keeps me really alert,
It's
um,
calm
and
too.
relaxed.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, mint. That's a good one. I've been getting a lot of cut grass lately, and I'm like, I don't know, that makes me
Really?
sneeze. But
Yeah, I
yeah,
was gonna say, just keep feeling allergic.
allergic. Exactly. Uh, Question for you, best compliment you've ever received.
I actually got this from a student recently, which was, "You inspire me to help others."
That's beautiful.
Yeah, it was really meaningful.
I love that. That's great. That's awesome. Um, Guilty pleasures, indulgence. What's your favorite go-to snack?
I'm a person who likes crunch, so I'm into the land of crackers or like barbecue crispers. Always seem to do it for me.
Okay.
Um,
So crunch
I
gets you as long as it's crunchy.
crunch, yeah.
All right. And you're probably a crunchy peanut butter guy too, not the smooth.
Yes, yes, and
Okay.
dark roasted.
And dark roast. I love that. Okay. Thinking about school, it can be high school or university, it doesn't really matter, but thinking about it, what was your favorite subject?
In high school, I would say it was math.
Okay.
Um, and in uh, but I think in like law school, I would say it was probably more constitutional, public law, sort of thing. So two very different sides of the brain.
Yeah. But that's interesting because it shows how diversity of thought, right? Bringing all those things
Exactly.
together. There you go.
Exactly.
First job, we all started somewhere. What was yours?
Oh, I was 12, and was a groundskeeper at a golf course. And my job was picking up the balls on the driving range while avoiding the golfers who were intentionally trying to hit me. So
That's a mission.
anytime I have a dumb idea or a poor thought, I blame it on the times where I was struck as a teen
That's
by
terrible.
golfers on the golf course.
Yeah, that's so mean. That's so mean.
Yeah, it was, but
Well, you learned how to dodge things.
exactly,
Right?
exactly.
If you had to pick one word to describe yourself, what would you pick?
I describe myself as an advocate,
Okay, that's good. That's good.
which is
All right.
sort of the culmination of all the stuff I do for, you know, Start Proud, and of course, as a lawyer in
Yeah,
litigation, it's kind of the thing that is the common thread.
amazing, amazing. It's a good thing to be. So you've been involved, you just said Start Proud, formerly out on Bay Street. Can you tell us about your experience with the organization and its impact it's having on 2S LGBTQ plus students and young professionals?
Absolutely. So I got involved with Start Proud late 2022. It's been an incredible journey so far. When I was asked to get involved, I was actually asked, I didn't apply kind of thing. I was sort of, someone reached out to me and said, hey, how do you feel about reviving this organization after the pandemic? Um, and I thought, okay, I'll give it a shot. It was, it's not dissimilar to kind of the rebuild we were doing while I was president of the Students' Union at U of T.
Hmm.
But when I started, I was the volunteer. It was me. Um, and sort of 2 short years later, we're a team of over 50 really talented, hardworking individuals. We've since run events for hundreds of people. Brian, you were there a couple weeks ago now
Yeah.
at our Out on Bay Street conference that was sold out. Um, and it's been intense, but when I see people finding meaningful and inclusive employment, it makes those late nights worth it. And I really see Start Proud as kind of that cornerstone for the 2S LGBTQ plus community, for students and young professionals, getting them those tools, the support, the confidence that they need to succeed, and really creating those opportunities um, through fostering community. Um, and really, this is all about helping our community not just survive and kind of get through life, but it's about thriving, about finding belonging, finding fulfillment. Um, and I'm not someone who lives for the weekend. I've never understood it. Of you're going to spend
Yeah.
60%, 70% of your life to live for the remaining 40 or 30%. That doesn't, the math ain't mathing for me. Um, and because of that, I think uh, I really believe that there is a job out there or a vocation that is going to be meaningful and fulfilling, um, so that you don't just have to live for the weekend. You can live for the weekend and live because you have a meaningful and engaging and inclusive uh, workplace,
Hmm.
um, where you can really be your authentic self.
100%. And I love that you brought that up because life is about all those pieces of that journey, right? And
Exactly.
they all should be equally engaging and inspiring and all the things, right? I agree. It's funny that phrase, like people do that, and I'm like, what? 2 days?
Right.
It's like,
Exactly. And it's 2 days. And the reality is that most jobs also require you sometimes to work the odd weekend
that's
too. So
right.
it's not even 2 days.
That's right.
Um, and I think if you're really like, listen, it's a job's a job. I get the economy's hard. People need to find employment. You got to pay your rent somehow. But if you have the opportunity, um, now or in the future, to really find a place where you can feel fulfilled about what it is you're doing,
Yeah.
um, take the pay cut, take the longer hours. It is absolutely worth spending the time doing something that's meaningful rather than working a 9 to 5 that brings you no joy and you resent.
Great, great insights and thoughts for the listeners. Thank you for sharing that. Your career has really, like I used to talk about my career as off-roading. I think yours is more off-roading than mine as far as the different paths you've been on. But from music to law and then everywhere in between, how has this overall diverse background shaped your approach to what you're doing now and as far as legal career and advocacy work?
Well, I think you bring those experiences and skills with you. So, of course, it's a unique experience that I have. It's enriching. Um, music is all about creativity and it's about discipline, the power of expression. It's that idea that, like, yes, you're performing on stage and you're giving a concert, but that's the culmination of hours and hours of work. It's all about process along the way. And something my voice teacher and I would talk about a lot. Like, it's always about the process. So shout out to Elizabeth McDonald at the University of Toronto.
There you
Um,
go.
and that's totally applicable to the law too, right? When I get up in court and I'm advocating, I'm talking to a judge, what I am saying is the culmination of hours and hours and frankly years of preparation.
Yeah.
And you can't fake it at the last minute. Um, it's all about the process along the way. And so that's something that's definitely stuck with me about from sort of my musical background. Of course, the computer science stuff along the way too, like that's about precision and structure and dependencies and careful planning. Um, and that is also factored into how I think about the cases um, that I'm running, and as I'm developing those ideas of okay, if I'm arguing A, what's the knock-on effect B and C, right? Or say I lose argument A, right? How can I make sure that B and C succeed? Um, that's sort of really logical thinking I've been able to apply as well. But it also just gives me comfort, with a bit of a fresh perspective, leveraging new technologies in law, um, and ultimately advocating effectively for my clients, efficiently for my clients, where we can use AI assisted technologies wherever possible to reduce the amount of sort of human hours required. Um, so I'm grateful and for that sort of non-linear journey, because I think at the end of the day, I'm better at my job for it than if I had gone, had sort of the more conventional path of, studying like straight political science and then going to law school and then becoming a lawyer.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that because I just had a conversation today about this, and I think with the way we learn about success and what that might look like, and it's a lot of pre-programming, right? If we think
Mm-hmm.
about the things we learn along the way. Um, when you were like moving or transitioning between these things, what were some of the things you thought about? Because I think I'm talking to young people right now, and they're kind of they feel stuck. I'm like, you don't have to be stuck. You can reinvent yourself. You can think about things in a transitional mindset. But is there any thoughts around that you might share with some people that might be sitting in something right now and saying, okay, I've done this. What's next? Any ideas?
I think like take a step back and think about the moments in your life and the projects you've done that have brought you the most joy, and forget about the you know the minutia of it, or even the circumstances of it. What was the like macro thing you were doing that brought you joy? And for me, that's building stuff. I am happiest when I am building
Yeah.
an organization like StartProv, when I'm building a case. Like as a kid, I can think back to like, I was the kid who liked to play with Lego, right? Like it's that like
Yeah.
structure and thinking of stuff um, in that way. And, I think about why I genuinely enjoy what I do. And like that is an incredibly lucky position to be in. But it's because I have the opportunity and frankly, and empowered to build stuff.
Hmm.
And so when people feel stuck, I think the question is not like, do you want to become a doctor or a lawyer? Right?
Right.
The question I think is like, um, hey, I'm really passionate about problem solving. So it wouldn't matter if I became a doctor and had to figure out and triage, the patient that comes in, or it wouldn't matter if I was a lawyer and became like was really interested to resolving people's conflicts
Hmm.
or conflicts between companies, right? Because I want to diagnose um, that problem and come up with a solution. So I think in some ways, like perhaps less about vocation and more about fulfillment is a new approach to how you might know what feels right next. Like what's going to get you
Right.
closer to finding that fulfillment in the long run.
It's
Um,
great. That's great advice. Incredible. Yeah, 100%. Thank you. Thanks for going a little deeper on that one.
no worries. Because I think it's
Uh,
also like our concepts of what these jobs
right,
are like not everyone is going to be Harvey Specter,
right,
right? And if like thank goodness,
right.
right? Like um and if that's your idea of what a lawyer is, for example, like you're missing out on all of those incredible, unique, talented, um, diverse people who practice law differently. It doesn't have to look like that.
That's right. Yeah, I think I like your idea because if you really think it through, I think you will look at things slightly differently if you try to open up your mind to it. And that's the biggest thing is we want to label it, we want to box it, we want to give it a title. Yeah, I like what you said there. Thank you. That's really cool. Let's see here. As a former student leader and now a professional in the legal field, what advice would you give to, well, LGBTQ plus students, but all students about navigating their own careers, and specifically for LGBTQ in this case, or even some of the marginalized groups, like your own identity within those worlds?
I think the first thing is be true to yourself as safely as you can be. Like I recognize that not everyone is going to be in a position where you can be authentically yourself all the time. And that's heartbreaking and you deserve better. But it's not always going to be possible. And so sometimes it is about, a question of do you need to extract yourself from those situations so that you can fully be authentic to yourself. But I think that's the ultimate goal
Yes.
on sort of the personal side. And then it becomes about seeking out those supportive communities and mentors who will uplift you, um, so that you can realize that and find authenticity and uh, sort of self acceptance. I guess at a more like sort of general level,
Hmm.
I think remember that skills and experiences are transferable.
That's
Like
right.
you might have to spell it out in that interview about why your experience picking up golf balls on the driving range at the golf club is applicable to, your next job, um, as a barista or something.
Right.
Like you may have to like indicate that, but there will be common threads and it's on you to sort of identify what that is. Maybe it's timeliness, maybe it's the ability to work under pressure. Like dodging golf balls might be the same as making sure that you're dealing with the line when it's backing up or something of that sort, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Um, but but at the end of the day, it's your unique experiences and perspectives that will give you the competitive edge, and those are your greatest strengths. So it becomes about advocating for yourself and remembering that it's your identity that is that powerful asset. So stand tall, be proud, never let others dim your light.
Love that. That's a really good. I'm gonna, I know we wanted to talk about this because tomorrow is National Coming Out Day. I don't know how you want to describe your own, I don't know if you want to talk about your own coming out day or what you think it represents or whatever, but I want to turn the mic to you to maybe highlight what it is or what it means. Some people still think everything happens in Pride Month, and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And those are the ones that we're trying to say, no, it's 365 a year for all of us. So let's think
Right.
about it. But I notice now more and more, at least conversations around National Coming Out Day. What are your thoughts about it?
I think this is where this is where I think it becomes about what's comfortable and feels right for you.
Hmm.
The idea that people come out once is a misconception. People come out all of the time. And you will like people come out multiple times a day because every new person you're interacting with, you're potentially coming out to. You don't know what the reaction is going to be.
You're right.
Um, and there are circumstances where it is totally okay to say, I'm not cool with this today. Like it's not a failure to do so. Um, to say, you know what, like in this circumstance, I'm just going to stay quiet. And that's okay too. So I think with National Coming Out Day, it's both a celebration for those who are out completely, um, and are in the lucky position of being able to. And I think it's also a reminder, though, that not everyone has that privilege for coming out to be a non-event like it was for me, right? I was in a relationship with women, then I was in a relationship with men, then I was in a relationship with women. Did I ever have to come out to my parents? No.
Right.
Right? That's an incredibly lucky position to be in. It was a total non-event. But do I still have to come out at work when I take a new job? Inevitably,
Hmm.
right? Do you come out when you have to fill out your health insurance forms? When you
Hmm.
indicate who your partner is? Yes. And and I think when we're talking about coming out, it isn't just, it doesn't have to look like you're a guest on a podcast or you're a guest on a reality show, right?
That's
Or
so
some sort of TV sitcom.
good
It can be the
analogy.
simple,
Yeah.
yeah, it can be the simple thing of you bringing your partner to a work event and saying, "Hey, this is my partner,"
Right.
right?
Right.
And like, let's celebrate that. And in the circumstances where people are uncomfortable doing so, those who are out or those who are allies to those who are out, let's identify those and fix it so that people don't have to bifurcate their lives where they're out sometimes and in other circumstances are uncomfortable doing so. So that's kind of what National Coming Out Days means to me.
Hmm.
It's celebration, but it really is that call to action to ensure that all of the spaces in which we have power and in which we have privilege, we're leveraging that so as to enable others the opportunity to be themselves.
Yeah, it's super interesting the way you presented that too, and I like the idea that you shared. You don't, there's moments where maybe you just don't feel like
Yeah.
sharing it or doing, and I think that sometimes feels like pressure on you and in the machine. Like, I
Mhm.
mean, I've reflected on events where I was like, it wasn't really about my sexual orientation anyway, so why am I gonna like, what are we talking about it for?
Well, exactly. And it's not like straight people walk around announcing themselves as straight, right? That's
Right?
ridiculous.
Exactly.
And if you're
Exactly.
that.
No,
But
thank you. Because I think this is great for listeners to hear because sometimes you feel like you got to represent or you got to speak
mhm,
up and sometimes it's not safe to
mhm,
based on what you read the room. But I think we all are entitled, and I know you believe this too, like to psychological safety no matter where we are. And so
absolutely.
where that doesn't exist, we need to keep having days like this and talking about it because of those reasons.
Exactly.
Yeah. Let's talk about industries now, because there's also, I hear it all the time. Oh, well, I'm not going to go into that industry because they're not
Hmm.
going to accept me, or this job won't be for me because I won't be accepted, or whatever. So when we think about, you know, in your role at Fasken and the legal profession, have you seen an evolution of change there about inclusion and representation? It's one of the things that one of the industries I think about and wonder about it, and I'm not as familiar with your
Hmm.
world of that industry. So, what's your thought about it in legal and being authentic and yourself?
I mean, I'll just start by saying like I'm pretty early on in my career, so I've only seen, um, when I talk about evolution, like we're talking like since
Sure.
really started seriously
Yeah.
considering law school, right? So, um, but there definitely has been an evolution towards greater to us LGBTQ plus inclusion and representation. Um, the founding of the Canadian Association of LGBTQ plus lawyers association is, I think, a big moment in that. And there's definitely growing recognition and importance of diversity that firms are embracing. You can see it's things like the Black North Initiative,
Yeah.
um, and with respect to inclusion of Black lawyers and students in the legal profession. And those initiatives are good and they need to continue and they need to be bolstered. Um, but there is work to be done.
Hmm.
I'm incredibly lucky that I work at Fasken. When I actually had applied here, um, my my boss and the head of our litigation group, Sarah Armstrong, who is someone I really do look up to,
Hmm.
um, asked me a question in my interview and said, "I see that you're doing, X, Y, and Z, and Start Proud came up. Will you continue doing that if you're an associate here?" And it's kind of a gotcha question, right? That's a yes, no.
Yeah.
Like there's a right answer from the perspective of the person asking, because it is a time commitment, and like it's not like I have less hours to do here, but it's potentially more hours that I could be spent making the company money.
Right.
Um, and I won't leave you in suspense any longer. I said yes. I think it's important for the following reasons. It's who I am. Like it would allow me to be true to myself and my own values. I think it's good for business, yada yada yada. And her response was, I love that, and that is the answer I want from every associate.
Wow.
And
It's great.
I think that's pretty special, and unique. And so when I talk about the need for evolution, I think there is also need for some level of flexibility for those who are trying to bring change and evolve a historically, white cishet, um,
Mhm.
male dominated environment to being more inclusive, that there's some level of flexibility to making that happen. And again, it's not like I have to bill fewer hours a year or anything like that, but I'm given the flexibility to run Start Proud, and that might mean taking a call during the day because I need to get sponsorship from someone or whatever, that I'm enabled and empowered to do that. Um, I think on the side of industries that are historically where you might question, hey, is there a place for me in this? Um, my response is, if you allow that voice in your head
Hmm.
to prevail, there will never be a space in it for you, and there will never be a space for the person who comes after you.
That's right.
At some point, people need to be brave and break into those environments. Um, that is literally the purpose of Start Proud, is
Yep.
to enable people and empower people and give you the skills in which you can do that, find inclusion, and that you are recognized on your merits for just being really, really excellent in your chosen field.
That's great. Thank you. I 100% support what you just said, and I think generations that are coming behind us and asking these questions, I turn the question and say, look, you're the generation. If you see that, then you can change it. Like don't allow it. Bring more, more of your tribe, get more people talking, get it going. Like just because it is this way or was this way doesn't mean it has to stay that
Exactly. And
way.
especially I think and I'll just speak from the law perspective. Like
Sure.
lawyers have an incredibly important role in society. Like we're advocates. We have the ability, should we choose, to give voice to the voiceless, to share stories, convince others that those stories matter, to
Right.
obtain closure for people, to correct wrongs, prevent future harms. That's a privilege. And that privilege should not be restricted to those who can afford to go to law school or, like I said, fit the Harvey Specter model of the zealous advocate. If we are going to change society and serve society, the legal profession, the legal bar needs to reflect the rich tapestry of our country and the society that we're called to serve.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And also think about the clients you're calling on, someone like myself who would feel some cases more comfortable talking to you about something than maybe someone else that wasn't familiar with, a
Absolutely.
lived experience, if we put it
Yeah.
that way.
And I'm grateful for the clients who insist that we are staffing our teams in ways
Hmm.
that reflect their companies,
Hmm.
right? Please continue to do so, right? Put the pressure on your vendors, on the people who are providing you with services
That's right.
to show their values.
That's right. Thinking about this is an interesting question because thinking about some of the folks who might be listening and either they're wrapping up their undergraduate, but they want to maybe pursue maybe additional further education like you did in various ways.
Mhm.
What's your thought about what advice would you give to individuals thinking about furthering their education and maybe in multiple or different degrees?
Well, I think it's, do your research, reflect on your motivations and goals. It's that piece I talked about by what brings you fulfillment.
Right.
Um, are you doing further education because it's convenient and postpones making that decision or doing that self-reflection? A lot of people do, right?
Yeah,
And
no, it's true.
it's very easy when you're in university, you've you're comfortable with your environment, like both like physically and sort of the social dynamics of it all. Like maybe you've great relationship with some profs. Like maybe there's like government grants and funding around. Um, you know, like I'm never going to tell someone don't
Right.
pursue education, but do so because it's the right thing for you to ultimately find fulfillment. Um, and I think I'm a big believer in like take some space, take some time to do that.
Mhm.
Um, I'm not someone who, when I was done with my undergrad, I was doing this sort of student government stuff at U of T. Like I still took time to think, hey, do I really want to go to law school? Like I'm about to put 100 grand down to do this thing. Like I don't come from money. Like this is all going to be debt
Mhm.
at the end of the day. I better be really sure this is something I want to do. Um, and it's very easy to skip over that because you did well in the LSAT and you got the offer. Is it something that's going to, in the long run, bring you fulfillment? That's kind of the part I would think about. And
Your
of course,
advice is
you're gonna need
oh,
guidance, right? Like, so talk to people.
right.
Like connect with Start Power. Like, we've got lots of folks we can connect you with in particular fields who have similar lived experiences. Like, we do mentorship where you know we acknowledge that, hey, like you might want to talk to someone um, who is like, if you're first generation, talk to someone who's a first generation who's a professional,
Yep.
who's also queer, right? Might not be in the field that you wind up being in, but there's going to be some shared experience and advice that you might be able to get from that person. Um, and I think finding being really intentional about that exercise
Yes.
um, is really, really important. But just stay patient because it's never going to be linear. I think it's actually fun if it's not.
Yep.
Um, and just be persistent in it because there you will find the right thing if you keep looking.
Absolutely. And your advice is really good because of there's a lot of comparing to friends. Oh, well, they're doing this. Maybe I should. And what you're talking about is more of the fulfillment reflecting, you know, and really looking at it like what's the why? What's the purpose? What's with everything you
Exactly.
do? Because you don't have to live this pre-programmed life of, how things are defined. Um, and you've certainly, done multiple things already in your career. And so I think even challenging some people sometimes when they're like, Oh, I haven't had a job in my career path yet. And I'm like, what is that actually? Because I don't
Yeah,
even know what mine is. I'm way older than you, and I've had multiple career experiences.
exactly.
Um, but a path, I don't know. I think it's career. I saw someone share on LinkedIn, it's career portfolios. And I
Yeah, I
think
like
that makes,
that.
I like that one because it really is a series of portfolios that you might accumulate through your life. One thing I
Mhm.
wanted to ask you, if you could share like maybe one piece of inspiration with our listeners, especially those from the 2S LGBTQ community or just starting out their careers. So maybe just finished school, just starting, they just got their first job. What would you like to tell them?
Well, I think to the queer community, anyone who feels different, you're in the minority, or just I think generally struggling, I think at this point, your journey is unique and valuable. And if you embrace your identity with pride and confidence, surround yourself with people who are supportive, and you never underestimate the power of your voice and the power of the voices of those you surround yourself with, you'll
Hmm.
be good.
Yeah,
Like your contributions are vital. You have the potential to make impact in whatever field or environment you choose. And it's a little bit cliche, but you're not alone in doing so. And the world is full of imposters. Everyone
yeah.
feels like you don't
It,
have what it takes. There's those feelings of self doubt,
yep.
um, and insofar as you can surround yourself with people to assure you that you are not an imposter, that you can do it. I encourage you to find the community. If we can help you find the community, please reach out and connect.
So good.
You're not alone in this.
It's so good. You need to look for those people that lift you up for sure.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
You need those people in your life because, like you said, the world is full of imposters. I just love that because, yeah, I've been there a few times.
For
Right?
sure.
So, and
Absolutely.
but you also look at I that like, and for these young listeners too that are listening, like someone's gonna see something in you and ask you to try something or look at something. Go for it. Raise your hand because you might surprise yourself as well,
Absolutely.
right?
And I think there is something to be said about um, put your put yourself in situations that are going to stretch your abilities. Like if you're not a decisive person, find yourself in an environment where you have to make decisions and others are counting on you to make decisions. Like that is if you avoid making decisions because it's something you fear, you will never develop the skills necessary to think critically because
That's
you're
right.
avoiding it. And that's why it's so important to be around people who are going to be supportive, who give you those environments and those opportunities to, hey, give it a shot. It might not work the first time, it might not work the second time,
Yeah,
but the perseverance to make an impact and to grow
yeah,
uh, is something that's you can find it in yourself, but it's a heck of a lot easier if you have others who are drawing it out of you at the same time.
absolutely. Well, first of all, this has been such an engaging and amazing conversation. All this insights that you've shared with the audience. I want to thank you immensely for being a part of this. I know I'm gonna have to replay this a few times myself to pick up a few of your thoughts as well, because you came up with some really, really good insights and I think important observations and things for people to reflect on. So, thank you. And thank you so much for all that you do with all the efforts you're involved in with advocacy. It's extremely inspiring to see the things you're doing and everything that you've done, even since being part of Start Proud and being a part of that experience. I shared with someone this week, and I'm like, it's one of my favorite things to do every year in the fall, and just see the young minds and the people just soaking up the environment. So thank you for creating that space as well.
Thank you for facilitating it, Brian. I mean, you're part of it too,
Oh, thank
and
you.
for having me here, and for all that you do to give people confidence when they need it most.
Thank you. Thank you. We're all in this together, right?
Exactly. All imposters.
That's right. That's right. Well, thank you again. For the listeners, if you liked what you heard today, please share this podcast with your network, whether it's on Spotify or wherever you listen to your podcasts. You can give us a rating. And also, Coffee with Convery on Instagram is where all of the podcasts are shared with links to the bio where you can find all of them as well. As a reminder, this is Coffee with Convery, where we show you that success isn't always about climbing the corporate ladder. Sometimes it's about building your own jungle gym. So for today, thanks again. Have a good evening, and thanks for showing up.